Look, when someone goes after your reputation, it feels personal, right? It's overwhelming. But in a legal fight, hurt feelings don't exactly pay the bills. So what if you could actually translate that harm into a concrete, defensible number? Well, today that's exactly what we're going to do. We're breaking down a numbers-first guide to valuing that damage.
So, someone's ruined your reputation. Now what? You're probably feeling angry, frustrated, maybe even a little helpless. A false comment, a nasty email, some post that's just out there, and it's costing you. So, what can you actually do about it? Let's dive into how you can fight back using the only language the legal system really, truly understands: cold, hard numbers.
Okay, this is the absolute most important thing you need to get straight right from the start. Courts don't write checks for the abstract idea of a ruined reputation. Hurt feelings don't have a dollar sign on them. What they do compensate for are these specific, tangible, financial losses that happened because of what was said or written. We're talking lost jobs, canceled contracts. That's going to be our entire focus.
So how do we get there? How do we connect the dots? Well, we need a framework. We need a logical path that takes us from that initial insult all the way to a credible financial claim.
And here it is. This is your roadmap. Think of it as a 5-step chain of logic, and every single link has to be strong. You start with the event. What exactly happened? Then you map the exposure. Who saw it? Next, and this is crucial, you list the consequence. What changed because they saw it? From there, you calculate the dollars lost, and finally, the link that holds it all together, you back it all up with hard evidence. If one link breaks, the whole thing falls apart.
Okay, so how do you forge that unbreakable chain? You do it by building what our source material calls a 4-layer proof stack. I love that term. It means you're going to build your case with the precision of an accountant, piece by methodical piece. So what are these 4 layers? Well, first up, you've got your event log, where you document exactly what happened, when, and where. Second is the exposure map, tracking every single person who saw or heard the damaging statement. Third, the consequence list, detailing every negative outcome. And finally, the damages worksheet. This is where we put a dollar value on each of those consequences.
All right, let's dive into the part that makes a lot of people nervous: the math. But seriously, don't worry, the methods here are actually way more straightforward than you might think. Let's break down the most common ways you can calculate these financial losses.
All right, method 1, lost wages. This is probably the most common one out there. Maybe you got fired, maybe your hours were cut, or a job offer just vanished into thin air right after the incident. This is often the most direct type of damage to calculate.
The formula couldn't be simpler, really. It's just what you expected to earn minus what you actually earned. So in this example, you are on track to make, say, $12,500 over 10 weeks. But because of what happened, you only brought in $4,000. That gap, that $8,500, that's your direct provable damage.
But listen, a number on a spreadsheet is totally meaningless without proof. You absolutely have to back it up with the paperwork. We're talking pay stubs, offer letters showing your salary, termination notices from HR, even time cards that show your hours got slashed. This is the hard evidence that makes your claim real.
Okay, so what if you're a business owner? What if this whole mess cost you clients or killed a deal? Well, the calculation is a little different because we need to focus on what really matters: lost profit.
And this is a super important distinction. It's a classic mistake to go in claiming the entire value of a lost contract, the total revenue. But courts are smart. They know it costs money to make money. They don't care about your revenue. They care about your profit.
So the formula is also pretty simple. Just take your lost revenue and multiply it by your gross margin. Let's say you lost a $30,000 contract. If your business has a 65% gross margin, your actual lost profit is $19,500. That is the number that will stand up to scrutiny.
And you guessed it, it all comes back to the paper trail. You need those invoices, the bank reports, and here's the kicker: those client cancellation emails. Anything that directly connects them leaving to the bad-mouthing, that's pure gold.
All right, let's talk about the absolute make or break part of your entire case: causation. You can have the most beautiful spreadsheets in the world, but if you can't prove that the event is what caused the financial loss, your whole claim is worthless. It's that simple.
So let's look at what makes proof strong versus what makes it weak. Strong proof, that's a smoking gun. It's an email from a potential employer saying, "We're rescinding the offer because of this information." Weak proof, on the other hand, is just, "Well, my revenue went down a few months after that blog post went up." See the difference? One is a direct line, the other is just a vague correlation. You need that direct line. And this is why a timeline can be your best friend.
look at this. The defamatory email goes out on December 1st. By December 5th, just 4 days later, the client is gone. That tight timing makes it incredibly difficult for the other side to argue it was just some random coincidence. It paints a very, very clear picture.
Okay, so you've done all the hard work. You've logged everything. You've run the numbers. You've connected the dots. Now for the final step. How do you package it all up so you look credible and not like you're just trying to cash in?
The smartest strategy is to present two numbers. First, you give them your conservative total. This is your rock-solid, can't argue with it document-for-document number. In this case, say $28,000. It's the amount you can prove, no questions asked. Then you present your full range estimate, which might include probable future losses. This is brilliant because it shows you're being reasonable and builds massive credibility. It basically stops them in their tracks from calling you greedy.
All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the key takeaways? Number 1, focus on the financial consequences, not your feelings. 2, build that 4-layer proof stack before you do anything else. 3, keep the math simple, but back it up with a mountain of evidence. 4, prove causation with tight timelines and direct proof. And 5, present your case with that conservative plus full-range model to maximize your credibility.
You know, we've been talking a lot about cold, hard numbers, but let's be real. These numbers stand for something deeply personal, don't they? They represent lost opportunities, a stalled career, the cost of just defending your own integrity. You now have the tools, the framework to translate that harm into a language the system understands. So the only question left is, what is the real price of your good name?